afternoon, everybody. First of all, thank you for the warm welcome. When I came in to this school, I saw big letters saying, "Let's paint the city red." And that's a very welcome message in this campaign for my party. Yes, of course, after looking the videos, of course, it's shocking. And I think that every person dealing with the Afghanistan or Pakistan issue should look first at these videos. That's what I wanted to say after seeing the videos. But also, I want to underline is that if you look also at the images of women going to the streets when they try to introduce in Afghanistan the very women-unfriendly new laws. And lots of women went to the streets, lots of women were protesting. I'm really proud of them. And also, I read articles about an Afghani girls football team. And that is what we should see too. There is very much power in society, but of course it's a difficult situation. And what is needed in this situation is solidarity. Because in the end, it's about equality. Equality in rights, equality in dignity. And to help them, we should help all those women who are ready to stand up and women who are not daring to stand up. So, what about the Talibanization of Afghanistan and Pakistan? I don't think we should see the issue like the Taliban versus women. I think there is a wider picture, and that wider picture is showing that it's not just a security crisis, but also an economic and humanitarian crisis. And in order to help the women in the region, we need to offer perspective to all the people in the region. However, the importance of women's rights and gender equality cannot be overstressed. Early this month, we had a debate in the Parliament, in the European Parliament, on a resolution on Afghanistan. In the end, the resolution was adopted and it brought up some very useful points. Most notably, that European support of the budget should always be tied to clear agreements how money is spent. Clear guidelines on the respect of human rights, women's rights in particular. It's very obvious that this is not a form of neo-imperialism, but an essential part of development. These should be part of every financial contribution and every trade agreement. The European Union continues its support to the Europol Afghanistan mission. On the long term, the training for Afghani police personnel and the funding of their salaries will provide far more stability and security than the military ever can. But coming back to the trade agreements, the issue is not that with trade agreements there is no attention on human rights, because there are always human rights clauses. But the point is, what is happening if you have trade agreements and the country in question is not respecting them? Are then, in that case, the European Union or different countries prepared to do something, to take action? I think that is really a very important point. As I said, we need to look at the bigger picture in order to protect women's rights in Afghanistan and Pakistan. Many men are drawn into the ranks of the Taliban out of poverty. Many Pakistani boys, for example, attend madrasas because they offer free education. So the supplements to the government's lacking policy on the public education system, and of course a large amount of these religious schools are are there to promote the worldview that it is Muslims, it's about Muslims against the world, so against everybody else. So rightfully, we should focus on protecting the rights of girls to get a decent education, but also let's not forget that also boys should receive a decent education, like was said before, for the speakers before. And of course, unemployment, and in Afghanistan it's 40%, and quickly rising unemployment in Afghanistan. Of course, this is not offering the boys a perspective they need for the future. Obama was rightly criticized when during the American presidential campaign he observed that people cling to guns and religion when they are poor. But he was right. And this applies to Afghanistan and Pakistan just as much as it does to the United States. Many men support the Taliban because in some areas only the Taliban seems to offer stability, a sense of security and a sense of purpose. The economic crisis also has hit Pakistan, and it is often observed that people radicalize when they are vulnerable, when they lose their jobs or when they lose their homes. According to the United Nations, Pakistan is now more than 800,000 internally displaced people, and the people in the areas the refugees have moved to urgently need extra support. In a response to a resolution by the European Parliament, the European Commission last week announced it would donate 5.5 million euro for emergency help to this cause. It's a start, but it's less than €7 per refugee. With such a budget, you can provide some tents, some food, but no perspective for the future. And if you look at the money spent for the military and the budget that is provided for the development, you see that really a change is needed. Back to the situation of women. During the last years, I have been, on behalf of the European Parliament, the rapporteur on women's rights in Turkey. Of course, there is a very, very big difference between the situation of women in Turkey and the situation of women in Afghanistan and Pakistan. But I want to share some experiences from the general level which can help also in the fight to improve the women's rights in Afghanistan and Pakistan. Just to give an example, on the issue of violence, on domestic violence, only a few years ago, 80% of Turkish women was of the opinion that domestic violence is the fate of every woman. Nowadays, 80% says no to it. So some major changes can be done, but of course coordinated action is needed in this. First of all, what is needed is solidarity. Initiatives, important initiatives, groups of women should be supported. For instance, the media plays a very important role. To give an example, in 2004, the government and the parliament were going to change the penal code. And of course that was very good, because it has been changed and it became better, and discriminating articles against women were removed. But there was one article, and the Conservative Party wanted to reintroduce something in the penal code against zina, which is adultery. And of course, the women's movement immediately took action in the media. They called us in Europe, so we protested in the European Parliament, the European Commission, so everybody jumped on the issue.